about something in our house, and Dr. Price is like, "What is this all about?" Maybe it was our staff meeting, and I said, "This is dumb church. This is why you say," because we were fussing about something in the kingdom. What is it? That's dumb church. That's what dumb church looks like. Some of this stuff is so stupid and dumb. This is not the mind of Christ. When we see a lot of what's going on, it is not the mind of Christ. Today, we're addressing the teacher's mantle. Yes, and we are a teaching church, in case you didn't notice. We are a teaching church, which is why you're going to see the shift about us talking about being a campus church, because we are connected to Price University. Campus church is in town. The concept, the idea, Victory Church, Rhema Bible Church. Two big churches in town that have educational arms that reach out around the world. Those are teaching ministries. You come to learn, to be educated, to go out, to teach, disciple the nations or your backyard, whatever your assignment is. Not everybody has an international call or an international assignment. Not everybody has a regional one. Not everyone has a district. It really depends on your capacity, your assignment, where God called you to. Wherever your station is, it's necessary. Today, as we teach on the teacher, if you are a teacher, this will help you understand you. If you are not a teacher, this will help you understand us, as well as what God had in mind and has in mind for this office across the board in his kingdom. Anything you teach in an apostle's house is never just about one person. It's nice to, make things about us because, well, I have water. We were kirky. We were raised kirked up, weren't we? And even there were elements that we don't agree with, you still don't realize how you're conditioned to it. There's a reason. Now, this is going to be a probably more extreme example of why people who come up in toxic relationships, now everything, has been toxic for a long time. That toxicity is part of the foundation of your soul, your emotions, your spirit. And even though it's not good for you, you still end up back in the same type of relationships. Relationships can be marriage, it can be friendships, it can be co-workers, colleagues, people that you spend your free time with, and end up in the same cycle and the same pattern over and over and over. Because if you don't get that toxicity out and pour in the cleanness of God, you'll keep swapping it. It's like when we do advisements with people whose lives have been in constant turmoil, they have to learn how to live in peace. Peace feels wrong if you've never lived in peace. It feels, and I say feel because it's a feeling. But it's also a conditioning. We know people who have come through amazing programs, and you look up and 2-3 years later, their life is back in the pit because that dog going back to its own vomit. That's what that is. Going back to what God has delivered you from. Going back to it, he works so hard. Advisors work hard, preachers work hard, family counselors, therapists, everybody works hard, and them. Because if you don't get the root of that out of you, then you will end up right back where you were, not understanding why does this always happen. Today we're breaking down the teacher. Teaching, Prophet Tallis says about Dr. Price all the time, education is your superpower. Because you feel like you've been superpowered. You've been taught around, yeah. So teaching, even though we are a house of apostleship, because that's the mantle over the house, teaching is for sure at the foundation and the tentacles that go into everything. We all think we understand the teacher. Listen, I thought I understood all these things until I actually started studying them myself. It's like, oh, I did not find any teaching terms in the Prophet's Dictionary specifically about the teacher, but it could be under something else. If I find it under something else, I will let you know. But, holding the railing. I had a bad experience. And there were witnesses to that very bad Still lingering effects. Is this thing on? Probably not, because why would it be on? There we go. Okay, so class objectives do not change. Learning the mantle manifestations divine purpose. This is also in your insert or on your downloadable. Ministerial service position descriptions, mantle objectives. Do you need handouts, Prophet Tamir? Yeah, Prophet Tamir needs handouts, please and thank you. They're coming right here. Inherent mantle. I saw it in my peripheral apostolic vision. Inherent mantle capabilities, operational manifestations, and ministry actions. Look at these different dynamics of every mantle. If you ever have in your mind, why does it take so long to become credentialed, ordained, commissioned, certified? This is a list of reasons why. Can you manifest your mantle's divine purpose? Okay, because if you can't even identify it, then you may not be manifesting it. The position description. Okay, that's probably the first thing you learn. What is this job description? It's the same thing of saying, reading a position description and saying, oh, I can do that, and then actually doing the job and not getting fired for what you said you could do. So many of us are like, oh, I can do that. And then you get in that arena, you're like, oh, I can't do that. Or I can't do it the way this environment requires it. Your higher education or education in general is really to train you to function in various environments, not just the one that you're the most comfortable in. It's great that your mantle flows in church. This is the easiest place where your mantle will manifest because we pray here, we praise here, we are all in agreement in general about who Jesus Christ is. This is it. Devils have to stop at the door for the most part. There's a lot of warfare that's not here. The true test of your mantleship is out there. Anything outside of a Sunday, Wednesday, whatever service, prayer circle, your mantle, the easiest time your mantle works is in 5:30 prayer. If you're in 5:30 prayer, you have the power of the other mantles with you. Everybody's clearing the heavens for you. You don't have to sort through much. Oh, you hear somebody else's testimony, somebody else's prophetic intelligence. You're like, oh yeah, okay, that is what God was telling me. That was right. You know, and this is the easiest place. And then when you go home and open up your bills, maybe I should have brought a bell. Whenever you go any arena where there's opposition or unfamiliarity, that's when it happened. I just had a conversation with someone who reached out after Dr. Price prophesied to them and their family in a restaurant 2 years ago. And that's, we leave cards. That's why she says, leave your card everywhere we go. Left her card and called because of their life needing what we offer. So don't think that because you did it in this season, I was like, oh my gosh, that it might take a few years for that thing to bear fruit. Maybe you're the planter, and then somebody, or maybe you're the waterer, or maybe it's the season where you harvest. It takes that long. Mantle objectives. If you can't run down why God has your mantle in the earth, not you, your mantle. See, we make it about us when we make it about us. Because we say, so I'm just going to use you because you're standing in front of me, Selma. You know, why? What we ask our kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? We don't ask our children, what does God want you to be when you grow up? That's a different list altogether. Parents would prepare their children for life very differently if they thought, why did God give you to me? Like Hannah with Samuel. Because we just do what we've been taught. I think we would all raise our children differently if we were taught to think that. All of a sudden, it's not about you fulfilling the family business. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, if that's your call. Oh no, but God told me that you're the one who's going to, or the prophet told me, God told me through the prophet's mouth, God told me through the intercessor's mouth that you are going to be this and this in the earth. And I had to get over it because I had vision. We all have visions for our kids. It's kind of a natural thing. Hopefully, you have a vision for what you brought into the earth. That's a natural thing. But when it becomes contrary to your vision, we don't ask God, why did you put my mantle in the earth? First, you ask that question and get the answer, and then he talks to you about you in the mantle or the office, the station, whatever it is. Wherever your arena is, whatever God called you to do in the church, outside of the church, kingdom, whatever. But this mantle in this arena does these things. And this is how it's done through you. This is how it's done through me. You have to learn your mantle objectives from God. We teach heaven down and not earth up. We're teaching these offices and everything tied to discipling apostolic Christians, the biotic gospel, the dunamite anointing, the dunamite office, the dunamite drills, pick a dunamite moment, according to what God had in mind, bringing it down to earth and sending it down and working it from heaven down, and not what we can benefit from earth. And, oh yeah, God, we're going to do something for you. How did the prosperity message become a gospel? We just made it about us. God wants you to be the lender and not the borrower. So it doesn't matter if your life is going down the drain. The worst thing you can do, the worst thing that God wants you to do is get a loan. This is what people were taught. Losing their houses, losing their cars, losing their minds, thinking God failed them because you were preached out of doing what makes sense to preserve your life. Okay, so you're saying that God would rather have somebody on the street than paying back a loan? Now you need to do the wise loans. Okay? We have to all things within the scales of righteousness. You have to manage your money wisely. There are times when you will have to pay a price and consequences. Yes, absolutely. But having it as the gospel that the Lord's highest priority for you. So the objectives have to be from heaven down, as well as learning your inherent mantle capabilities. In the beginning of the, I'm not sure about the advanced, the PAQ advanced. I really don't deal with too many of those. But in the intermediate, there's a opening letter on the intermediate results. And like the first couple pages or page and a half, there's a language that Dr. Price wrote about, as a contemporary prophetic or prophet, not to compare yourself to modern prophets, but to compare yourself to biblical prophets. Measure how you're delivering and what you think about these offices according to biblical prophets, not contemporary ones, because contemporary ones, we're talking. I mean, if somebody's moving in real power, it makes headline news. In the kingdom, we had like one miracle worker. Right, AJ? See, they walk and they talk and they're like, let's go. We had one. We had one Kim Clement. And when these people either fall from grace or pass on to glory, everybody's lost. Well, who's going to give us the word of the Lord? Well, there actually isn't just one person who was ever giving us the word of the Lord. There was never just one person performing miracles. There was never just one person laying hands on people and them getting healed. Never. But we sensationalize and make people celebrities. And even in our own minds, we begin to think God only does that with a few people. We don't realize it. So when he starts visiting us about who he's called us to be, we're like, I'm not a so-and-so. I'm not a thus and what. And, half the time God is like, they're not either. But, which is why so many people, it's revealed that they've been fallen for 25, 30 years. They've been popular, but not with God. Popular with people. Learning our operational manifestations, ministry actions. This takes a time, doesn't it? It takes time to learn it and then do it. I met somebody who was going to school for counseling. to be a counselor. And I said, oh, bless your heart. You know, it's one of those careers that people don't realize how long it takes to actually be in the office. Right, Minister Abigail? Right, Minister Tracy? You see, we have ministers, we have therapists in our ministry. Come on now, this is God. And he said, well, I said, are you in the classroom phase where you're sitting? Yeah, I'm just learning to be. Okay, so you have hours to go, hours and hours. It is understood when you sign up for many careers, especially the ones that handle people's lives directly, you will be in school for a long time. There's no fast track to being a doctor. There better not be, because I will not be in your office for anything. Urgent care is like you can get in there faster, but the doctors in there have not been in school any less. Nurses, practitioners, all the people assigned to that arena. Therapist, you're in school forever. Law, you're in school forever. All of these things take years and years. And when somebody tells you this is what they're going to do with their life, you say, who? You're going to be in school for a long time. You know what they say? I know, but I just can't get it out of my mind. I just can't. But when it comes to the things of God, there's a knee-jerk pushback that starts with, how long do I have to be in this training program before I can get out here and do this? And we wonder why the church is messy. Don't we? We wonder, how is it that these ministers can be out here and do all these things without accountability? Well, you didn't care about accountability when you were in their prayer line, getting a prophecy. You didn't care about their accountability when you were able to brag about sitting in so-and-so's church with all these numbers. It's too easy to touch God's people's lives, which means it's too easy to ruin them. It's too easy. God called me too. I'm a prophet too. I've been here. Time served does not guarantee promotion in God. Now, it can in some places, but not in God. I've been here and serving the Lord. I've been doing this for 20 years. I deserve respect. I need to see the papers on how you've been doing this. What does God say? What do people say? Who are the people whose lives you've impacted? Have they been lifted up? Have they been destroyed? Have they been devastated? How much stuff did you miss? How much did you get right? Or are you measuring yourself by yourself? Are you measuring yourself by the other failures in your region? Are you measuring yourself by God's standards? Do you even know God's standards? It's too easy for the body of Christ to get into ministry unvetted, untried. The minute that you have a trial, you're out. People begin to question if they heard from God when things get hard. Now, in the world, it's built into the psychological prep. I have another friend who is in school to be a physician's assistant, and she's just getting into the program. And she said, okay, they told us in the beginning, these are the resources for you for therapy, psychological assistance, personally for you while you are in this program. Because the pressure in that field, the highest levels of addiction are in that field. Now, they tell students coming into the program, your soul's going to crash. It's going to crash. Here are the resources, semester 1, to let you know when your soul crashes, this is who you can call. Okay? We have something called advisements. We have a soul program too, because when your soul crashes from the reality of what it takes to become who God has called you to be, and dealing with the oppositional warfare that is involved in that, we have a bat phone called Talk to Jill. No. Called Go Online. All right. Phil, put this in. The world has come to its senses. One of the first required classes in our apostleship training is the acronym is SOAP. Dr. Price. This is way before the 3D program existed in this format. But when you have the author, you always have the program in some format. But it's the soul of the apostles' purge. Doesn't that hurt? I'm like, boom. And you know where most of my students fall out? Soul of the apostles' purge. Boom. You're not going to get the juice until you fall out in your soul. We're not going to do all the fun stuff until we know that you're not going to mishandle it. It's going to be so dry and academic, just like every other program starts academic, doesn't it? It starts in the classroom with books, theory, boring, 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 boring. Apostle, this is so boring. I know. Isn't that great? Because boring means you're learning and not being entertained. We can't mix up entertainment when it's boring. You're not fascinated when it's boring. You have to learn it, regurgitate it, recite it, pass it on the test, wax on, wax off. How long am I going to have to do this? Until you get it right with the right attitude. Our goal doesn't change to understand and be able to articulate the difference between the 1 Corinthians 12, 28 and 29 government and the Ephesians 4:11 officers to your friends, family, co-workers, and strangers on the street. People ask me all the time, well, because I am one, but well, what's an apostle? What is an apostle? What's a prophet? Well, what's a pastor really supposed to be doing? Because this can't be it. Well, I love the Lord. I just want to evangelize. I want to teach. What does that mean? According to God. The teacher's manifestation's divine purpose. Christian teachers eliminate all traces and effects of erroneous belief systems and naivete in the Lord's church. That's where we are right now. You could tell we're apostolic teachers because we hit head on this issue. All traces and effects of erroneous belief systems and naivete in the Lord's church. Would you say you can recognize that as being an overall motivation behind how we teach? Would you say that? Can you say that? Do you agree? Any disagree? Any disagrees? You know, like, I don't really think so. Okay. That we're dealing with, and I love it, eliminating traces and effects. That's where we are right now. God has empowered his teachers to do this by developing and delivering various academic programs, promoting responsible study and good scholarship, and directly tying learning to performance in ministerial and other types of readiness programs. This is really important because this will help you in the seats measure when you are being taught versus when you're being preached at. Because preaching is inspirational. Teaching is converting. It's going to these systemic issues in you, not just systematic expressions. And I have emboldened here in blue, promoting responsible study and good scholarships. We're in a teaching church, but a teacher is going to also equip you to learn how to study. Isn't that important? Because most people, how did you learn that? How do you come? Because come on, when we're not here and somebody's not telling it to me, how am I supposed to learn this? What am I supposed to do in my own life? I sit down. Who's seen War Room? All right. Our favorite scene in War Room, whenever she's in the closet, the prayer closet, in her war room with the chips. You go in there and you spend time with God. Okay. And you look and you're like, it's been 3 minutes, just 3. I thought for sure it's been 45 already. What am I supposed to do with my time? Well, you need to go spend time with the Lord. What does that mean? I can't even see him. You go spend time with your friends. At least you can see each other. I mean, nowadays people sit at the table, everybody in their phone, not even talking to each other. And so what do I do? So a good teacher is going to show you how to continue your learning journey when they're not around. Teachers can be some of the most tedious people in your life. You know why? Because everything is a lesson. My father was a principal. And when we would have our weekends with him, it used to drive me crazy because everything with him was a lesson. We went bowling. Plus, he wasn't there all the time. And so parents want to make up for lost time in these times together. And I understand this now as an adult. I did not understand this as a child. And if I did, I probably wouldn't have cared anyway. I'm just here to bowl. I don't need a lesson. Let's go play mini golf. Dad, if you swing straight, Dad, I actually don't care about getting the ball in the hole. I'm just here to hang out and have a good time. But he was a principal. He was a teacher. So everything was a teaching moment because that's who he was. I was like, Mom doesn't like that. And my mom was a teacher as well. Don't ever say that to your parents, but comparing them one to another. Ministerial service position description. Teachers are inclined to organize scholastic material efficiently and set up productive learning environments to administer a variety of academic and training disciplines. The Christian teacher is concerned with knowledge, information, biblical scholarship, and spiritual academics, as well as morality, ethics, and other dutiful responsibilities to one's community. And teachers tend to see most of society in mainly academic terms, recognizing behaviors, attitudes, and conversations that may be remedied by simple yet effective educational programs. This is the way the teacher sees the world. You hear the language in all of these position descriptions. It is the way that mantle sees the world. Don't be friends with the prophet if you don't want to be around somebody who sees stuff. Okay? Don't be friends with athletic people if you don't like to sweat. You don't like to move. You want to be a couch potato. You want to be left alone. Don't be friends with people who are active and love strenuous activity as a pastime if you hate it. Unless, of course, that's a friend you should be friends with to help you along in that area. Don't be friends with somebody who is absolutely healthy and you resent a healthy lifestyle. You're offended by broccoli. Offended by the idea of a green lunch. Personally, myself, I do not consider salad a meal. Even a big one. Unless there's meat in it. And then I'm like, now this is lunch. Otherwise, it's just a really big appetizer. I like salads with meat. I mean, I like the, what's it called? I do like the side salads without all that because it is a side salad. But if we're talking about this is the meal, this is the meal. It doesn't even have to have a lot of the other stuff. Just you could throw in the whatever green and a protein. And I don't mean some tofu. And I'm not hating on anybody who likes this, okay? Because to each his own, truly, to each his own. And I'm not putting anybody down if you do, because that does annoy me when people do that. These are all healthy options. So, but I'm just saying for myself, I'm like, no, but this here is this is the way the teacher also sees the world through this. You're seeing most of society, that teacher is going to identify behaviors. Now you see that person right there, they're probably frustrated because they have a difficult time. And you're like, not only did I not see them, I don't care. My mom taught preschool forever. 4-year-olds are her people. Even to this day, those little people are her people. She will tell you what type of an adult that person is going to be by their behavior as a toddler. Oh, no, because I already know. And then once they get into preschool, nope, you need to do this. You need to structure their life that way. You have to, so on and so forth. Jennifer, I'm sure you can do the same thing. Oh, no, because I know they want this child to be this particular way. That's not who they are. And teachers can see that. So the service position description, do you see here how before we get to talking about anything, this is a big part of the description? Because talking is the last thing that we do as we're learning. As Dr. Price says, when a prophet's not prophesying, what are they doing? We say when a pastor's not preaching, what are they doing? When a teacher's not teaching, what are they doing? Preparing everything that they are developing. 5 office objectives: to participate in developing and performing learner evaluations. How come this ministry has so many evaluations and assessments? Every time we turn around, there's an assessment, because we are a teaching organization. We teach. So because we teach, we assess, we evaluate. We live in Oklahoma, who is at the bottom of the national education standards. This is what happens when you have leaders in place who do not adequately prepare or adequately pay good teachers. Because, hey, we all need to survive in this world. Teachers are going to go where they can afford to live. Teachers already have to buy all the supplies in their classroom. Education system is the most backward system probably in our country, because it's the most essential institution to a nation's survival, and is the one that is discarded the most across the board. So you could tell the strategy is, you want to kill a nation and bring it down and take it out, just bring down its education system. The rest will fall into place. So we have assessments because an objective of a teaching mantle is to participate in developing and performing learner evaluations, to build learners' skill sets, remedy their learning deficiencies or deficits, and refine their unique aptitudes and abilities. These are like pinching terms, aren't they? Oh, because when you're in the seat, you're like, oh, remedy their learning deficits. That sounds so sweet. That means you're going to find out where you're stupid, where you're dumb, where you're ignorant, when you're uninformed, where you just lack knowledge. It can be a range of things that can be a deficit. It's not just any one thing. Some people have deficits in experience, although they have knowledge. And then other people have all this experience and not the knowledge. To advise and guide learners on their academic and professional courses of action. Advise and guide. Oh, I think we have some of those. It's one thing, humanity we're just very interesting. People are interesting because we whine and we cry when we have to figure things out by ourselves and get it messed up, don't we? I wish I would have had somebody who could just help me. I had to figure it out on my own, and I could have saved myself so much hardship if I would have just had somebody to show me. And then God brings in people to show you. And then you're like, how come nobody likes me? I felt good about myself until I met you. No, you didn't, because let the record show on the first call we had, it was you telling me how you didn't like yourself, you didn't like your life, and you didn't like your results. But you wanted this to be about blaming other people and not us, taking ownership, as our chief apostle says, you've been raising yourself for a long time. Teachers advise and guide and deal with those deficits and addressing them, to administer academic education, training tutorials, and other modes of scholastic, professional, and ministerial development. You mean we have another Saturday seminar? We have a midweek, we have group activity. How come in Sunday school we always have to act it out, and to make sure that it is being developed in you? Develop lesson plans and design and pace their delivery methods. That's what we're doing. All these teachings have lesson plans. Anything that we say in front of you, somewhere there's a lesson plan. Somewhere there's an A, B, C. And I tell you, if you are a prophet or an apostle, that's a discipline, because the propensity is to shoot from the hip. Just flow. just flow, just flow. There's a real discipline in sticking to your lesson plan when you're these particular two mantles, because the revelatory element of who you are always wants to take over. And you could go down the street on a revelation of your own teaching point and totally miss the lesson. And then what happens is the students don't get the information, but they get revelation. But they don't get the information. Now, sometimes that's fine. I mean, it depends on the setting. If you're in an academic classroom, scholastic, then you stick to the lesson plan, because that is the contract you have with the students. You will learn these things by the end of this semester. You will be able to do these objectives. Anybody in Price University who tells you they don't know what's expected of them is not telling you the truth. Did I say that nicely? They're not telling you the truth. They're lying. They might be lying to themselves, but they're lying, because every single course, I'm looking at the front row of Price U people here who work, every single course has objectives, has outcomes, a course description. Now, you understanding that, something else altogether. Working through it, something else altogether. But the academic environment should leave no room for self-interpretation. The academic environment, it's defined for you when you're coming into the academic arena, which is contrary to the revelatory flow. Mr. AJ, you're being a distraction, sir. You might have to take him out. 5 inherent capabilities. Studiousness, research, and experimentation. That is your teaching mantle. Well, let's just try this. Well, let's just try that. Well, let's just try this. Well, let's just try that. Again, discipline. Teachers need discipline within themselves, or else you will run down experiment after experiment after experiment and actually come to no conclusions. No defined destination. That's what we call exploratory. And there can be a class for exploration. All right, data and knowledge gathering, assimilation, and transmission. And a teacher, now just on the flip side of when a teacher is, let's just say, trying to study themselves, that first point of studiousness, research, and experimentation, you can go down all these offshoots and trails and still never finish studying one topic. So you have to rein yourself in and say, that is really exciting. I need to note that for the future and stay on track. Or else you'll learn a whole lot of things that don't amount to any one thing. Let's see, data, I think I said this, data, knowledge, and gathering, assimilation, and transmission. That's a whole lot right there. Positive interaction with students, peers, and authorities. As a teacher, you need to have positive interaction in our evaluations for our leaders. How you interact with your peers and colleagues, as well as your subordinates, is assessed. We have to have a 95% approval rating as leaders, which means if you basically have more than one issue with somebody in a year, your leadership is called into question. As a leader, if there's a pattern with you, now sometimes the pattern is with other people. They're like, this person has had issue with everybody. This person has been in fights with people that nobody has fight. Okay. But if the leader, if everywhere you go, there's a problem, or there's confusion, or there is offense, or there's hurt, or whatever, that is called into question. On the flip side, if everywhere you go, order comes in, peace, things settle down, everybody just fall in line, we all know what's going on, people don't wonder what version of you is going to show up from day to day. They have to look in your eyes to see, I'm going to use you because you're consistent in temperament, for the most part. No, okay. He is. And see, yeah. He's looking to the right. Look at. See, do you see this? Okay. Do people have to look you in the eye to see which version of you is showing up, or can they say they're this, no matter what's going on? All of that positive interactions. You know why? Because people shut you off when they don't like you. I think we've all had at least one teacher coming through school somewhere that you can't stand because they are unlikable. Across the board. Teachers, the other teachers, they're like, oh, yeah, well, you know, they got tenure, so we just have to live with them. And you go in that class and you have to fight to learn because you shut them off. Because you don't want to hear what that they could be the best, the top of their field. And you know what? You don't care. You're like, give me the middle. Okay? Because at least the middle I can get along with. So the teacher is responsible for having positive interaction with their students, peers, and authorities. These positions are not positions of throwing your weight around. If you have to throw some weight, then it better be really serious. Really serious. Knowledge dissemination and skills building. That's an inherent capability of a teacher. Disseminating knowledge, not just learning, disseminating to where people understand it. How about that? Curriculum design, lesson planning, and development of learning programs. We're teachers, we're always designing some lesson. And here it's a program. Here it's an institution. It's the school of. It becomes an idea. Dr. Price said this. She may have said it last Sunday, but she said it again this week. She said, I just had no idea I was going to be doing all this in New Year's Eve service when I was prophesying that word. I'm like, really? Because I did. I thought, here come books. Here come messages. Here it comes. All right, if we're establishing a new era. 5 ministry actions: identifying skill sets, exploring potential talent, and analyzing spiritual gifts. This is what a teacher is supposed to do. Teachers are great talent scouts. Great talent scouts. Because they're like, oh, I can identify the strengths, the weaknesses. Nope, this one's going to go all the way. This one, I know the parent really wants them to, but or if we're in higher education, I know this person really thinks that they should do this, but really, this is where you would really benefit in this arena over here. Analyzing spiritual gifts. If you're at the place where God has worked on you a lot and you can handle being told the truth, if it's contrary to what you've been told or what you believe about you, this can go very well. If there's a lot of brokenness, a lot of pressure from other people growing up, I mean, there's a lot of reasons people wrestle with the word of the Lord in their life, isn't there? It's just, many times it's easy to just blame people not respecting the prophetic. And there's plenty of that to go around. And that's also based on teaching as well. But then receiving something for yourself that may be contrary to what you want or what you believed about yourself can also be a challenge. So the teacher is that intricate mantle that gets in there and breaks things down academically, scholastically, point for point. The minutia of what you need to learn is in that teacher's mantle. Possible founding and operating institutions of learning and training independently. That's a possibility. Discipleship, ministerial screening, and their related readiness programs and procedures. Can we screen? We have learned in the last 7 years with Price U, 6 years, 7 years, the full process of what it takes. We have rolled this thing back and busted it down and sectioned it off now because we've had plenty of students come through to understand clearly what it takes to develop these mantles in people and people in the mantles. It's not quick. It's not easy. And the funny thing is, if we learn, even if somebody's been doing something a long time, if they've been doing it without high education, there's a lot of gaps. There's a lot of holes. There's a lot of missing parts, missing elements. I'll use your IT. We'll take IT. People can do IT self-taught, can they not? There's things you can do. But don't you have 2 masters? Huh, no, see, now I gotta walk over here. Hold on. Here's my own question. What's your education?
Just a master's.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just say it. You graduated high school. You graduated preschool.
Degree in computer science, undergrad in computer science, master's in management information systems, and a master's in management information security, which is cybersecurity.
Okay. You're masters in those management and security, 2 different disciplines, even if it's in the same world. How much? See, my own question. How much would you say, since tech is in everybody's hands, literally now, would you say what level of security or management could somebody do self-taught versus what you're taught in the master's program? Yeah, like what's the difference? And hold it up and
How much? Not that much. You'll be able to do like a service entry level desk, like easy technical support, like hey, my computer won't turn on, or stuff like basic troubleshooting. But you're talking about like high level computing, or high level, even with this whole AI type stuff, you're going to need at least at a minimum anywhere between 5,000 to 10,000 hours.
because that's what defines a master, is the hours in the education. And because there's so much information at our fingertips, how many people have we met that have said, I've read all of Dr. Price's books, thinking that's going to give them a head start as far as like jumping ahead. Now, that'll definitely give you a strong foundation to have a basic knowledge of a field before you enter into it. But you learn very quickly, even if you were raised in the house of, that once you yourself sit in the seat of education, it's a very different world. So that education foundation and model teaches you all of these things. I was talking to a friend who is in a career, and there was a conflict with being published. And this other colleague did not understand the difference between being a contributor in a publication and being an author. Because contributors are acknowledged one way, authors are acknowledged another way, and it's what you do within that project that defines if you are an author or a contributor. And they made a statement that was so profound. They said, well, this person doesn't have their master's yet, because if they had their master's, they would know the difference between contributing and authoring something that's going to be published, and we wouldn't be in this interdepartmental argument right now. If they got their master's, they would understand that, because they teach us that in the master's program. Because you thought, because you put in some information, that you actually authored something. Very interesting. This is why you need the higher education if you are doing anything of consequence, or you are running with and working with people who are. Learning the environment where you're going. A teacher's assessing learners and students before, during, and after their educational process. Oh, the joys of when you see one of your old teachers. Especially college. So, what you doing with your degree? And that's when it's like, well, are you doing something with your degree? Are you doing what the degree said you're supposed to be doing with your degree? Are you upholding what you said you would do? We commission, we ordain in our organization. I'll use us because, well, we're the one I know. And we can look at graduates and say they are being successful or failing in their ordination or commission based on what we said at the point of that elevation. Man, as apostles, we had the rundown of the thing that we recited when we were here. We signed off on documents. We have certificates hanging on the wall. It's so awesome. It's so amazing. You know what it is? It's heavy. We have our books that we put together. That stuff is not for a show. We are measured. Our credentials will be renewed or not renewed based on what we've done with the original work. That's what part of the education system does. What are you doing with this? If you are ordained as a near prophet, New Era Apostleship Restitution has standards. We don't care about yours. We care about ours. As a near commissioned apostle, this is our commissioner holds these standards. Now, if you go somewhere else and you do something else somewhere else, then those are the standards. You bring our standards to them. You know what they're going to tell you? We don't care about Dr. Price's standards. You're not there, you're here. And so teaching a ministry action is assessing a learner and student before, during, and after. This July, we're rolling into evaluations with our leaders this month. This is some of the leaders are in the process of education. Some of us are after education is complete, and assessing still is required. I mean, who wants the doctor that has not done any recertification since they graduated medical school? I don't care if it was 3 years ago. Technology has changed. Laws have changed. There are procedures that have changed. Oh yeah, well, we used to do it this way. Now we do it this way. It's much more efficient. It's faster. It's less invasive. Everybody's favorite term, less invasive. It's less invasive while they're still invading you. Setting policy for instructions of learning and their different educational and spiritual refinement programs. Your teacher is supposed to be able to go broad and narrow. This is the broad stroke of the discipline. This is the emphasis of the program. This is the focus of the class. And this is how we're going to work with this student. Big, broad to narrow, wide to finite. And we all love those teachers who care. And we know they care because they make themselves available to the best of their ability. And I say to the best of their ability because not everybody is available the same. And if they can't do it, they will appoint resources for you. That's why teachers have teachers' assistants and helpers and things of that nature to see to it that the student teacher. They're a good buddy to buddy you up with. This other person does it really well, but they don't like people, so we're not going to put you with them. That matters, because if you already feel insecure about needing a tutor, nobody wants a tutor who's looking at you like you're stupid. Now, I have a tutor because I have a deficit. I don't need you to remind me of that. That's why we're here. You want the tutor who is sensitive, compassionate, kind to that deficit, who can say, it's okay, we'll work it 5 times. That's all right. We'll work it. Well, let's try it this way. Well, let's try it that way. Well, let's see. How do you think? Are you a visual learner? Are you an auditory learner? Do you just have to hear something? Do you have to read it? Do you have to do both? And that is what a teaching mantle does. They work it for the most part until it works. It takes a genuine teacher a long time to say, no, this is not for you. Genuine teachers will exhaust all their options. They'll exhaust the system's options. Well, maybe they just needed to. Well, maybe they need it. Now, also a good teacher will know out the gate too, they're never going to be this person, but they're going to have to learn the hard way because their parents can't hear it. They can't hear it as an adult. They've had a dream of always being this or that. And then they also know the people who don't believe in themselves enough to push for it. And I think as a teacher myself, there's a sad moment is when you realize someone is not going to make it in their program, even though they should. The raw talent is there, the skills are there, the brain power might be there, but there's that deficit in the soul. There's a steely will that won't bend or yield. There can be other, sometimes it's a physical thing, like life crises takes them out of the running. So it can be external as well as internal. And then as a teacher, you're like, oh, hold on. They're getting up with all power now. They're shaking a few things up. They can come through this. You almost there. You almost there. Come on, don't quit, don't quit, don't quit. And they don't quit. And you're like, yes, a giant in the making. A giant has just been born. Crying, wobbling, everything else is wonderful. Any questions from anybody? Any questions? Marsha, Shannon.
I had a question from when you were talking about your soul crashing. How can you tell the difference between it's your soul crashing because all the pressures versus having a pity party and it's being down on yourself?
Well, I'll talk about myself. How about that? When I'm having a pity party, which is not often these days, everything's about me. How hard I and how long I and why I and I. It's about me. When God is dealing with my soul or he has to bring something down so he can rebuild it, I'm not feeling bad for myself. He's dealing. And a lot of times he's dealing with, let's just say, my outlook on something. Now, he may open the door, let the door of pity open, and then deal with that soul. And he'll say, see, that's what I'm talking about. You'll know when it's you having a pity party because there's no room for God in anything because it's all about you. There's no room for anybody to tell you another perspective because it's all about you. You know you're having that pity party because, first of all, you have it so well scripted. It is so well rehearsed that when any line of truth contrary to that hits it, you're mad at that person. You're mad at God. You're slamming doors. You trying to block folk in your phone. You've quit for the 10th time. Diane's laughing behind you. Okay, it looks like there might be a witness in the room. All right, hey. So pity is about you validating and refusing to hear anything contrary to what you believe to be true. Period. And you're willing to just shut down everything else. There's no room for the truth. People who you said 5 days ago could hear from God clearly for your life, you don't want to hear from them. All of a sudden, the people who you trusted, it could be family, it could be friends. It doesn't have to be us. All of a sudden, boom, you're shutting them out, literally, probably going home and closing your door, turning your phone notifications off, disappearing for a while, turning into yourself. That's pity. Because when you're in that pity party, it's an invitation. And then you're trying to find other people who can agree with you. So you will run your rehearsed sad story down to find the people who will feed into that. You don't want anybody who's going to challenge you to rise above when you're in a pity party. Nobody. You don't want anybody around who's going to say, but do you think that's what I'm talking about? See, everybody. So people who were your best friends yesterday are public enemy number one today. That's when you know you are locked into pity. And it's 9:00. This soul moment is over. Praise God. We're dismissed.